Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. My name is Ronsley, and today is episode 26 of my AI Love Affair, and I have a special treat for you. This is a recording I did in Hawaii with a few of my entrepreneur buddies, Carl Taylor, Toni Bache, Jason Everett, and Ed Dale. These are legends, by the way, in their own right, in their own niche, and very successful, and they've implemented some really cool techniques in their business using artificial intelligence. So it's a long conversation. We had to break it up into 3 parts. And this is part 1. And we talk all about applying AI into our businesses or their businesses. They shared fascinating real world examples, like how one of them is actually using personalized marketing messages by crafting very unique prompts for individual customers. We have another one that was talking about training remote teams using guided artificial intelligence conversations and allowing consistent coaching no matter who is being coached. So it's really fascinating conversation. And over the next few episodes, we'll talk about some things even more important, like the ethical boundaries and the ethical development when it comes to AI. We talk about giving you actionable takeaways so that you can do your best when it comes to artificial intelligence. Here is part 1. Enjoy it. Hey, it's Ronsley. Welcome, you AI geek, to this podcast, my AI Love Affair. Consider this podcast your digital compass, guiding you through the labyrinth that is business growth using artificial intelligence. Running a business as a creative can sometimes be like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. But what if you had a secret tool that could align all the colors for you? That is AI. It's like a master key unlocking multiple doors. Thanks for being here. Let's learn.
It's great to be here in beautiful, rainy Hawaii and among some really smart business people who've been using AI. So my thoughts was, hey, I have this idea and I wanted to have a conversation because I feel like artificial intelligence is going to be easily the biggest conversation of our lifetime. And we all need to participate in that conversation and have this conversation because it has impact on us as a species. And you've all been using it in some way. So I thought what we could really do is first talk about business and how AI can help business rather than just AI by itself. Otherwise, it's just AI, it looks cool, and it does all this cool stuff, but if it's actually used for outcome, it will be great. Yeah. Start with Ed.
So in the context of this conversation, I think the most interesting thing in my background is just my background in copywriting.
Yep.
So I do have, similar to you, like a computer science background as well. Yep. But I spent all my life thinking about communication and basically how to get people to take action with words.
Yeah.
So,
and you've got obviously a lot of experience in the online space. If you could just give us.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, there was a little thing called the 30-day challenge. Over 500,000 people did it and made their first $1 online, and most of the people we know and love today got their start there, which is wonderful. So it's a great legacy to have.
Thanks, Ed. Hi, Toni.
Yeah, so thanks, Ronsley, for having me. I'm Toni Bache. I'm a coach, mentor, and digital marketer. I think for me, when I first heard about AI, I was probably the most skeptical person because what my differential is with marketing is that I really talk about how to bring relationships, how to bring connection, how to bring authenticity. And I was the first one to be a skeptic on how could you do that with a machine? Like it's not possible to bring that human element to a machine. And I think that's probably what intrigued me is to see how close can we get this to being human. Just immersed myself even to this day. So I've just gone so deep and use it in my business every day, use it with my clients' business.
What are you testing and how are you doing that?
I just get really curious about can AI help me do this? And then I will just obsessively do prompt after prompt after prompt after prompt until I figure out how to make it do it. So just testing, tweaking, layering, Googling to see what other people have done to then kind of twist that, make it my own.
Yeah. In computer science, we call that recursion. Hey, Ed. Yeah.
I am not a computer science girl.
But it's great to see how you've been able to adapt it without having a tech background, so really good to have you.
And it's interesting, Ronsley, I don't have a tech background, but I worked for big tech companies for a long, long time. And I remember one of the companies I worked for was Electronic Arts, and their mission was, can a computer make you cry? And their whole goal was to make their games so good, so realistic, so immersive that you felt like you were there and it could evoke that kind of emotion.
It's quite amazing to see what kind of results it returns, and I'm super surprised a lot of the times when it does return stuff, and I'm like, wow, that is phenomenal.
Exactly.
Just mind-blowing. Thank you for being here. Carl.
So I'm Carl Taylor, and I run a company called Automation Agency. I guess I've been a techie for a long time. I taught myself to code at the age of 10. I ran an IT company. I've had web design companies. I do love technology, and I love trying to make things better. We rolled out AI in Automation Agency about 6 years ago. Before the large language models, we had a classifier. One of the problems we needed to solve is we had clients all around the world sending in emails, sending in tasks. And we had one Filipino trying to do this. And it was slowing down the whole bottleneck, because if an email came in, before it could be assigned to someone, it had to be read by a human, figured out it's a web task, it goes to the web team, or it's a design task, it goes to the design team. And so I hired a data scientist to come in, look at all our old tickets, and train an AI classifier model to read the email and automate that process. So we did that about 6 years ago and then didn't touch it. And then when I first saw ChatGPT, my first thought when I saw this was like, I can see a lot of marketing automation tools. I could just see so much potential, which I now know a number of companies have started to do what I saw could happen. All of a sudden, instantly was like, this changes. And the thing that was so fascinating is the technology had been around for a few years, but ChatGPT put it on the landscape that now people who didn't realize that you didn't have to be a coder to use this tool. You could just talk to it and get output. That instantly created the gold rush moment.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Carl.
Good.
Jason, we've been chatting a little bit about how you've been doing stuff. I'd love to first start with what business is for you, and then how you've been playing with AI.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me on, and thanks for everybody who's hanging out, kicking it in here with us. I've been a trainer for over 15 years, and standing on stages and training from stage or training in businesses, one of the things you learn is how to actually create moments for people that they can have ahas and insights. And one of the things I think is really fascinating about how AI works is it's a two-way training. As much as you're training the AI, you are really getting trained by the AI. So many people just try and get it to do something without actually providing any training. And I think sometimes as a business owner, we do the same thing. You hire somebody and you think right out the box they should know exactly what you need to know. And what AI really kind of trained me in the reverse way was it pointed out to me so quickly how many mistakes I was making in my training process of getting somebody to do something. But because it's an emotionless, responsive tool, and you can throw it 1,000 tasks, what I really learned is that if I asked for something and it gave me something back, the only person that was at fault, if it was wrong, was me. For improperly asking the question. And with AI, I could literally ask it again and again and again and again and again until I got it right and was trained. But in a normal person situation, if you were to do that, that person would quit or flip you off before you'd get to the point where you would have the understanding. And so for me, a big thing about being a trainer for over 15 years and playing with AI is it accelerated so many different things. And I work in the salon and spa space, and they typically have to train people very quickly and get them up to speed. And so it's just the tool of AI, whether you're talking BART or ChatGPT or any other tool, is just the ability to be able to leverage something. And I think somebody else said it, not me, but they said, this is like literally fire. But fire has the ability to create beautiful things and create the cell phones in our pocket, the mics we're talking on. Fire forages things from nothing, but it can also destroy. And I think that the main topic of just using AI, I think people are afraid of it, and they're excited by it. But it's all down to the hands that are actually using it. And I would like to encourage people to use AI for the best possible purpose, but know very easily fire can destroy things if in the wrong hands. So that's how I like to premise all of our discussion.
Brilliant. And I think I'm on a similar path, because I realized how bad of a delegator I was coming into AI and using AI, because I feel like one of the things, the biggest step for an entrepreneur is going from solo to team and understanding the different aspects that come with business when it comes to team, like operations, recruitment, culture, processes, systems, a whole bunch of different things. And then we expect someone we've just hired to know exactly what's in our head, even though we've been there for such a long time.
I mean, the only thing you can do, like if you look at a lot of those activities, sales, customer service and so on, the only way you get good at those things, and I see Linda Fogg in the audience, is drills, right? It's the only way.
Yeah, repetition.
It's flight time. It's the only way. And what's super exciting in this technology, and I think one of the most least talked about wonderful things that all the large language models bring is one of the best things it does is conversations, right? And what is sales if not a conversation?
Right.
What is training if not a conversation? So that ability to have a conversation.
One of my favorite things to tell people to do that haven't played with AI very much, I would just encourage you to go to lunch with AI. Like that's a weird thing, but I told my whole team, go take a lunch and literally chat with ChatGPT for the entire lunch and have a conversation. Ask it what it can do, what it can't do, how it can help you. Tell it about your job. Like start several threads and just play with it.
I want to open this up so anyone can go at any time, but how did it start and what did you see first that kind of made the light bulb go on, and what do you wish we can all see what you saw?
I'm happy to start. So like I was saying before, when I first came across ChatGPT, and I don't remember what I first typed into it, I cannot remember. But the first thought I had was like, imagine, so I have a company where people say, hey, can you do this thing for me? Can you set up email sequences? Can you build me a landing page? And I was like, they send that usually as an email or through our web interface. Imagine you just chat into this tool and then it can just go away and build it. It could just do it. You could say, hey, I want to build an automation that does this, and then I really want this to happen, and then this to happen. And it can just, at the end of the day, it's all computer programming to interface with those tools. Like it should be able to do that. So why would someone use a tool like a service like mine with humans that might take 3 days to do what it could do in 30 seconds to a minute? That was my first thought. A little while back, I was contemplating like with my next investment property, I was stuck with, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? So I went to ChatGPT and I basically gave it this whole concept of who it should be. And I wanted it to ask me questions one by one. It wanted to be clean and not tell me what to do, help me find my own inner wisdom of what I wanted to do.
Wow.
And about, I don't know, 7 messages in, it was super clear to me what the next step was. And it coached me through the whole process.
And based on that insight, what do you wish we all see?
Just that, we were having a conversation earlier today and someone was like, the value as a coach is that you can help people, hold them accountable, or they're going to want to talk to you and not the machine. My experience, if you look at most younger generations at least, they would rather talk to the machine. They'd rather text than actually pick up the phone. Yep. So most people would probably prefer to talk to this anonymous machine and ask it its most personal, deep, darkest questions and challenges in their head and get an answer from a machine than they would be to come to a human, whether that be a therapist, whether that be a coach. So I think the biggest thing is just, this is not going away. And if anything, it'll probably just people will get more attached to the machine. And we need to be mindful of that as how we use it. Like it's exciting, but we also have to be mindful of the dangers of that too as a society.
It's like a social media upgrade. Almost.
Oh yeah, it's like a complete depth of social media.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Carl.
For me, the epiphany happened when I realised that you don't program a prompt, right? It's a communication. If you said out loud what you wrote in that prompt to one of your team, how would they take it? Huh. That's the test, because here's the thing. Really, it's the name's in the tin, right? Large language model. Emphasis on language. You don't program languages, you communicate, right? And the lessons and laws of communication. And so people look at the prompts that I design and they say, well, why are you repeating that so many times? Because, if it was a computer program, I would only have to say it once. Of course, that's right. And so for me, that was the epiphany, right? That was the light bulb moment to realise that all of the power of question and all those things that you learnt as just being good.
Yeah, huge. Thank you.
I think for me, my first experience was when ChatGPT was first launched or OpenAI was first launched. And I think like the breakthrough for me and the big aha moment, I think anyone that is not fully leveraging, some kind of AI in their business, specifically for copy, like what you need to get it to do is when it writes something better than you could write yourself or any copywriter could write for you. And that's when I realized AI is an accelerator. And if we can really leverage this as an accelerator in our business, that enables us to deploy ourselves working, on our business rather than in our business. It enables us to deploy our resources in different ways to, bring more people into our world so we can help more people and have more of an impact. So if we can really leverage this and harness this as an accelerator and enable it to reach more people to do more good in the world, then, this is something that everybody should be using. And that's when I started to go deep so I could become enough of an expert to share it with other people so that we could have this whole, ripple effect of everybody using it for the greater good and using it in a really great way, but using it as an accelerator.
Yeah, for the greater good is such a huge part of that statement. Thank you, Toni.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I'm one of those nerdy people that if there's something cool, I just want to do it. That's just kind of, I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that, but if I see something cool, and then I remember when OpenAI came out, I probably went in and said, make me a website that solves the world's problems, and put some giant thing in that was impossible. And then a couple weeks later, I was like, I should probably try something. I would say, and this is a weird way to say it, but the moment I fell in love with the tool, if you will, and I mean that in the nicest possible way of I really thought it was powerful. And I always have to train when I have new support team, whether it's an assistant or somebody, to go start researching those and bring them to me. And so that's a huge task. And they will spend a week researching trips and then coming back to me, and I'll be only one of those is even worth the time. So as I was on with ChatGPT hanging out, and we were talking back and forth, they said, hey, I do these type of trips. Here's the types of trips that I've done. I'm given all the descriptive criteria to allow the context for it to happen. And then I said, I'd like you to come up with 20 of this type of adventures. And it literally spit out 20. 10 of them I'd already done, and 10 were on my list to do. And I was like, well, there you go. It literally, in about 15 minutes of prompting, did weeks worth of research that was better than the research that any human being had produced for me, because I gave it the right criteria. And a human being, when you give it the criteria, it forgets what you said, it starts to make its own judgment calls, it starts to perceive things, make a lot of assumptions, and it only followed my directions. And I started giving it a little bit more criteria, and then said, find me 20 more, and 20 more, and 20 more. And then I said, and then I was doing an event, and my event fell through, and I said, I need something in this specific city, and it gave me 20 things in that city. And just made me realize that a person would get exhausted by that research. GPT did not. And it was able to provide me with all of the information, and I could sort through it very quickly. And I didn't have to communicate to another person who would be mad if I got rid of the work they just did, if I dismissed the work. ChatGPT is like, what else? What else? What else? What else? I'm like, it's this never-ending, ready-to-go resource. And I think so many times we as human beings wear out people before our idea is finished.
Hey, AI Geek. Thanks for listening. Your job doesn't stop here. I want you to lend your voice to the conversation. So you can join those conversations, discussions, new trainings, new recordings, and the rest of the AI Geeks by going to aigeeks.co/Discord. Also, share this podcast with a friend, another potential AI Geek. Until then, much love.